Hi everyone, it's Elizabeth with Irish Dance Magazine. Let's make some fun and festive cupcakes for the St. Patrick's Day season. So I always recommend making your own buttercream if you can. It's pretty simple and you can use a mixer or hand mix it. It'll just take you a little longer. You can buy store-bought frosting if you'd like, but I think it tastes better and is easier to work with when you make it yourself. So this recipe is just a pound of butter, 2 pounds of powdered sugar, 5 tablespoons of heavy cream, and 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract, and then just a little sprinkle of salt. All you're going to do is mix all that together until it's well incorporated, and then you want to make sure you finish off going nice and slow so that you don't have too many air bubbles in there. Then we're going to dye some of our buttercream green and orange and leave some of it white. I like using these Wilton gel colors. They're only like about $1 at Walmart and they'll last you forever. I use the Kelly green here and orange, but pick whatever colors work for you. And you can always add more, but you can't take it away. So always start with a little bit and see how it goes, and you can always add more if you need to. I am also going to use boxed cupcake mix for today because it was the easiest option for me. But you can also make your own cupcake mix if you have the time. One of my favorite things to do is to make green velvet cupcakes for St. Patrick's Day. So the same as red velvet cupcakes, except using green dye instead of red. I think that's a fun way to change it up. Our first cupcake is just going to be white with a little shamrock on top. This is what we call a coupler. So there's 2 pieces to it, and the piping tip goes in between those 2 pieces. And that allows you to change out the piping tip without having to get a new bag for a different buttercream. So you can also use a plastic bag if that's what you have on hand, but I think piping bags are an easier way to go. So I'm going to start off by filling that piping bag with just my white buttercream. The coupler is already in the bag. And for this first part, I'm not even going to put a piping tip on it. I'm just going to twist that bag nice and tight so that buttercream doesn't come out the other end. And then I'm going to get a baking tray with some parchment paper ready. So first, you're just going to pipe a nice blob on top of your cupcake. And then all you're going to do is flip it over onto that parchment paper and add a little bit of pressure. You're going to throw these into the freezer or the fridge and let them sit there for about 10 minutes to cool. And then you can just peel them off the paper and you have a really flat top to work with. I love using a blowtorch. You can also use hot water. Just make sure you wipe the water off of the knife, and you're just going to flatten out the top so that it looks nice and smooth. Then we're going to take our piping bag with green, and I'm just using a tiny round tip here. So you can also just cut a tiny hole in a plastic bag, and then we're gonna make little hearts, and those are gonna form our shamrock shape. So I'm just applying a little more pressure and then pulling off pressure as I pull towards the tip of the heart, and then adding a little stem as well. And there you go, got a little shamrock. Our next cupcake is just gonna be a fun Irish flag. So I'm going to use a star tip for this one. You can use any kind of star tip that looks kind of like this, where it just has all those prongs going around. It doesn't have to be this exact one. So you're going to have the coupler inside, put that tip on, don't let it fall off, and then you'll screw the other piece of the coupler on top of that. Then all you're going to do to pipe the stars is make sure you have the top of the bag twisted and press down to apply some pressure onto the cupcake and release and pull up. So I'm going to do 2 rows, and I'm going to start with the white in the middle so I give myself better spacing. And you're just going to do that all the way down the cupcake. Then we're going to do the same thing with the green and the orange. And so I'm doing 2 rows for each color. I actually kind of messed up on one of these and my white wasn't exactly in the middle, so I added an extra row of orange, but that's totally fine. These are pretty easy and forgiving if you have any little mistakes. But I'm just adding those 2 more rows of green onto the left side, and then I'll add the orange onto the right. Make sure you clean your tip or use a different same tip on the other colors, and make sure it's nice and dry as well. That way you don't get any funky frosting on there. But this is one of the easiest patterns to do. Making the stars is super simple, and even frosting bags at the grocery store often have a tip like this with them, so you could totally use that as well. And there we have our little Irish flags. Next, we're gonna do a simple rosette and just spice it up with some sprinkles. So for this, I'm using a 1M tip. It's a little bigger star tip. And I'm just going from the inside to the outside in a swirly pattern. Make sure you're putting pressure on the bag the whole time until that little end with the tail. You can do any color for these, but I chose green, and then I'm gonna add on some white and gold sprinkles. A lot of your craft stores and Walmart and Target will have a lot of sprinkles for options for sprinkles, which are really affordable and a lot of fun different things to try. So I did these kind of gold sticks and pearls, and then some white pearls as well, and I just stuck those on one side just to add a little bit of flair. Our last cupcakes are kind of the most complicated ones. I find them to be a lot of fun. You get to play around with it and just do whatever you want. So I just stuck with that green, white, and orange frosting, and then I'm doing kind of different shapes on them. So I started with a smaller star tip again with the green frosting, and I did a similar kind of rosette pattern where you're just swirling from the inside out. Then I took this white with this kind of triangle shaped tip, and I'm just going back and forth to make a fun little squiggle pattern. And you can use, if you only have 1 or 2 tips, you can totally use those and just use them in different ways to create different textures, or you can use a bunch of different tips here and just have fun with it. So I used a little tiny green star tip, and then I also used a white open tip and just created some little like dots. And then I also added an orange with a star tip in a different way. So with the orange, I'm doing that classic shell border. So you're gonna press with your hand into that piping bag to apply pressure as you pull up, and then release as you come down. And that's like that shell border you find at the grocery store all the time. And it's just a different way to use the star tip. And for these cupcakes, I just like to make sure that they're all full, and you don't really see any cupcake around. So just pack that buttercream on there and make it lots of fun. I went a little extra on these as well and decided to add some gold leaf just to spice it up a little bit. Make sure if you're doing anything like gold luster dust or gold leaf that it is non-toxic and edible. There's some craft options that you don't want to be putting on something that you're feeding to other people to eat. But I just pulled little pieces of that gold leaf away and plopped it on top to add a little fun sparkle. And there we have our mixed pipe cupcakes. So now you know how to pipe 4 different St. Patrick's Day themed cupcakes. Hope you guys have lots of fun making some of these, and be sure to tag us and send us your pictures. We'd love to see your recreations. Have a fun and safe St. Patrick's Day, and we'll see you all next time.